Now, we skip one thing. The most important thing is obviously the food. If we're eating inflammatory food like gluten, like processed flours, grains, junky omega-6 fatty acids, even too much carbohydrate, that can throw off, one, it can inflame the gut, and it can also throw off the microbials. Go ahead.
Yeah, what do you have to say about fiber? I mean, because I really don't push fiber at all. I really don't eat that much fiber. My motility is good. I have no issues. So I'm really not in the camp where I'm pushing a psyllium husk on someone. It is true that there's a little bit of pectin in some of the binders that we use. So maybe the pectin is helping with people as well. But beyond that, I'm not really pushing fiber. I'm not telling people you have to eat X servings of vegetables to increase your bowels. It's just really not to me, it's not a necessary step. Now, if people like it, maybe go for it, but I don't find it as part of the protocol.
Well, I think it's one of those things where people get a benefit. It's not because they're eating it per se, but because they're not eating something else. So
Yeah.
if someone is eating lots of processed grains or lots of processed sugar, and I'm like, hey, let's just sub those processed foods for healthier vegetables or some lower sugar fruit, well, that's automatically better because the food's less inflammatory. There are some nice fibers which can help, but they're also not feeding a lot of these bad microbes with the processed sugars too. So it's kind of like, well, you're pulling this out, so you're getting a benefit because this isn't there, but you're also adding this, which does have more potassium and magnesium. So I think having vegetables, especially if they're having motility issues, as long as it's cooked and potentially lower FODMAP, can't hurt. But I will add in specific fibers, but I'll do it more from the prebiotic phase of care. And we'll talk about that, which acts like fertilizer to help grow a lot of that good, healthy, commensal normal bacteria. So when we do gut killing programs, we'll knock down a lot of the dysbiotic stuff. We'll target the Citrobacter, the Klebsiella, the Pseudomonas, but sometimes that commensal Bacteroides and Firmicute phyla bacteria get knocked down a little bit. And so we want to really work on building that up. So then the fibers that we give are going to help create more butyrate. And that butyrate kind of feeds the healthy bacteria and makes it harder for the bad bacteria to grow.
Yeah, well said. Just to say it another way so people get it, what's happening is when we're coming in, we're not prescribing antibiotics, just to be clear. That could be maybe the conventional route if you're with the GI doctor. Maybe you get lucky and they run a test and you show up with a high enough level of pathogenic bacteria where they're going to suggest amoxicillin or rifaximin or some other sort of conventional like SIBO treatment. Okay, I'm using quotations here because I find the rifaximin and all these conventional drugs, they're just really not that good and a lot of people relapse. And so we're going to come in with the herbal medicines instead, and we're combining those. So we'll put together particular blends, and we've used these literally thousands of times. So there could be a case where you have a primary bacterial issue, but there's also some yeast and or candida or fungal issues. So now we're thinking, okay, we've got multiple bad guys here. We've got bacteria, and then we also have a yeast fungal component. We're going to tailor those herbs specifically to that. Or we could see on this side, okay, it's a bacterial and parasitic issue. So now we're going to use more herbs for parasites and bacteria, and maybe there wasn't a fungal problem at all. And while you're doing that, you will see some of the good guys die in the battle, die in the crossfire, if you will. And so he mentioned the word commensal. So commensal, your good guys, you'll see those, they can look lower on a retest, indicating, hey, some of your lactobacillus, your bifido, they've been knocked down. And that's important to rebuild because those help you make B vitamins for energy. So if we're tying in your constipation issues to your chronic fatigue or your anxiety or your depression or your skin issues, you got to make sure you understand all these symptoms are linked. It's rarely just constipation. It's likely other things happening. So he's saying now we're going to throw in maybe some prebiotics or even some living probiotics at the time of killing or even after killing to make
Bingo.
sure the good guys are put back in. I always use like the nightclub analogy. You know, you've got all these guys tearing up the club, and so you knock them out. But I use that for the mold analogy. What I say is like the back door is left open if there's still mold there and the bugs and or the scrubs move back in the club. But in your case, what you're describing would be we're kicking these guys out, but then we're going to go ahead and put some good guys in the club so there's no more trouble.
Hey, by the way, I got a dad joke for
Tell
you.
me.
It's a functional medicine dad joke.
Okay.
Where is the main place dysbiotic bacteria party?
I don't have a clue. Go ahead.
Klebsiella. That's a good one, dude.
How'd you come up with that one?
Dude, I just thought of that. Like in doctoral school, I thought of it one day. If my kids were there, they'd be like, "Oh, Dad."
That's hilarious.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
In this case, you guys didn't know, it's Klebsiella. It's a dysbiotic bacteria. The big ones that we see are Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Citrobacter, Morganella, Prevotella. These are some big ones. Strep, Staph. We'll see them, way overgrown. And again, these guys are they're gonna produce toxins like lipopolysaccharides or endotoxin that will disrupt motility. They will also take a lot of your good fermented nutrients from the healthy bacteria and eat it up. And of course, they will produce enzymes that make it harder to detoxify hormones. So they'll produce beta glucuronidase, which will take a lot of your hormones that you're trying to detoxify and package up and conjugate, and it will deconjugate it, take the handcuffs apart, and let them go back in. So girls listening, you'll get estrogen dominance. You may get more acne and skin issues and hormonal issues. Guys, you can get the same kind of things going on there.